Today I want to share my favourite books of 2016 with you. The book that I'm going to start with is Ali Smith's Autumn. This is my favourite book of 2016. This is the book that I've been pushing into people's hands, into people's baskets, at bookshops just kind of staring at them until they pick it up. This is so relevant, obviously, because it's a new release and it's kind of about Brexit. There has not been a day that's gone by with everything that's happening in politics that I have not thought about this book. It's fragments, it's about stories, it kind of looks to Shakespeare for The Tempest, and the first line is a rewriting of Dickens with "It was the worst of times, it was the worst of times." The fragments Ali Smith explores are memories, our relation to events, to other people, art, in particular kind of women in art, immigration, race, who are our strangers, who are the people we are close to, our neighbours, our relation to people and the world around us. To be honest, whenever I do talk about this book, it does descend into fragments itself of just kind of half-formed ideas and words. It is incredible and I can't recommend it enough. And in a way, I don't want to say too much about the plot because I feel like I want you to discover it for yourselves. So stop watching and go and buy and read Ali Smith's Autumn. I read this for my Victorian module on my MA and I've always wanted to read Madame Bovary. I knew it would be a book that I would love and I did. It is about Emma Bovary who gets bored. She marries a doctor and lives a mediocre rural life, and it is not the life she wanted. It is not the life of stories and love affairs and romances that filled the book she read. Her life was filled with sentimental novels, and Madame Bovary is really a story about how romanticism has killed love to a certain extent, or has killed the way we live our lives, because we're constantly looking up to these romantic ideals of what love should be, what marriage should be, and in fact it just kind of will kill us all in the end. Part of me has always wanted to read Madame Bovary because of The School of Life, the YouTube channel, and Alain de Botton's writing constantly kind of goes back to Madame Bovary as a novel that shows how romanticism has kind of ruined everything. It was a wonderful experience and a pleasure to study. On Chesil Beach by Ian McEwan. It's set in the early 60s in a summer, and Edward and Florence are young, innocent, and it's their wedding night. They are both terrified and inexperienced, and it's a really interesting look at sexuality and at the lack of sex education or understanding of our bodies, our anatomy, what sex is, how it works, the psychological effects of sex. Sex in literature, the concept of virginity in literature but also just in life and how we talk about it really fascinates me, especially even in contemporary sex education where it's still very much about sex as like a heteronormative act that you do, rather than it being associated with the pleasure that comes from it, and in particular female pleasure. Ian McEwan just examines so much in this novel, and it is tiny. I often have kind of a slight love-hate relationship with Ian McEwan, but this novel is just, it's my favourite Ian McEwan novel, and it is definitely one of my favourite books of all time now. It's wonderful, the questions of what ifs, like if things were different, would their lives be different? How would their relationship kind of pan out? In different circumstances, in a different time. That thought does slightly torture me. It's wonderful. Another favourite is The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. It's about a POW who helped build the Thai-Burma Railway, and I've actually done a review of that, and I think I just kind of gushed about that novel for that entire review, so I'm just going to put that in the description for you. In that review I talk about another favourite, which is The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. In a way, the autumn is about fragments, and The Narrow Road to the Deep North is also about fragments. I feel like there's a theme here with what I look for in a book. It discusses what it means to be a hero, a coward. It made a really profound impact on me, and it is one of those books, like quite a few of these, that I really struggle to describe, and think it's important for you just to go and read them and then understand how great they are. I should also mention that I read this at university in my third year for my American literature class, along with my next favourite, which is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. The reason I'm talking about these two together is because I actually did an essay about these two novels. I want to quickly talk about that essay because the reason I love Lolita is the same way that I love The Things They Carried. I love them because their narrative structure and how they tell stories and how they rewrite history. So in my essay, I looked at postmodernism and Lyotard and the idea of a meta-narrative. Now, postmodernism believes in a plurality of truths. The meta-narratives are things such as history or religion, these big overriding things that say this is the truth, this is the way to believe. But postmodernists believe that this is just too simplistic. The Things They Carried is a postmodern novel, but Lolita is just before the postmodernist movement. Jim O'Brien breaks down the meta-narrative of history, of how we tell war stories. O'Brien breaks down this version of history by constantly retelling different stories in different ways and breaking down that there is one way and one correct way to tell a war story. In comparison to breaking down a history in Lolita, the character of Herbert Hoover actually recreates his own. Lolita is written for his trial. It's to show that he's a good man. The fact that Lolita is never given a voice and that this book is actually just material to be presented at trial just shows that he is making up a history that is only his truth. This is a pure work of art, and I know that sounds pretentious, but it is magnificent. The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. It is absolutely huge, but it's 100% worth it. This is an incredible book, and also it has a map, which makes me very, very happy. The Luminaries is quite complicated, so I'm going to read the back, which I know is a sin, but bear with me. It's 1866, and Walter Moody has come to make his fortune upon the New Zealand goldfields. On the night of his arrival, he stumbles across a tense gathering of 12 local men who have met in secret to discuss a series of unsolved crimes. A wealthy man has vanished, a whore has tried to end her life, and an enormous fortune has been discovered in the home of a luckless drunk. Moody is soon drawn into the mystery, a network of fates and fortunes that is as complex. It is linked up with the zodiac and the movement of the sky and stars. I'm totally going to make this wrong and seem even more complicated than it actually is. So each character and kind of people are linked to the zodiac and to the planets. And so as the signs move in with the planets, different characters come together and pieces of conflict happen when their things collide. It is this amazing neo-19th century novel that is just incredibly planned, and you care about some of the characters and you kind of dislike them but kind of cheer when they come onto the page. So do not be put off by the size of the novel or by the size of the hype. So those are my favourite books of 2016. I hope you had a wonderful 2016 and read some amazing books. I would love to know in the comments what were your favourite books and what books are you reading or looking forward to reading this year.